Only a couple of days deep into the NHL postseason, we got fantasy overreactions. Ready to ride and get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, my fantasy fanatics? Welcome back inside the lab to the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, here with Steele and Flip, showing love to the everydayers who make us their first listen every single day, putting us as the number one sports podcast network here on the Locked On Sports Podcast Network. Mr. Rodin, only a couple of days deep into the postseason, we're seeing a number of intriguing situations, players, teams, and otherwise that we want to overreact to, but I really do think the players we're talking about, Leo Carlsson, Stankoven, Tage Thompson, Owen Tippett, all of this serves fantasy knowledge into next season. So I'm excited to talk about it all because there has been a lot to digest in the first few days. So over to you.
Isn't that true?
Ready to go wherever you are because it's been a fun ride already.
It really has, and some unexpected results, I would say, in the first couple of games. Obviously, the Flyers taking a 2-0 series lead. I want to talk about Owen Tippett later in this episode and my bold prediction going into next season with his fantasy value. We're going to get to big-time bets later. Pittsburgh Penguins need to find something, and I know you want to talk about Sidney Crosby yourself because that's your boy, that's your guy. What's his fantasy value going to bring next year? I'll leave that to you when we get to him, but I want to start with Tage Thompson because I've already come on here and said this before, but I think this is a first-round draft pick player. He is just that good. He's in the Rocket Richard Trophy race. It seems like every single season over the last couple of years now. He's going to be there once again this year, and that was an electric atmosphere for him getting his first goal, getting them back into the game at KeyBank Center in Buffalo. The crowd was absolutely electric, obviously, for his 2 goals. But I think that first goal was just an absolute beautiful thing. It was gorgeous. The fact that this player is 6'6", 220 pounds, and he is that shifty behind the net with 4 people surrounded around him, and he's able to tuck that in. What a goal from Tage Thompson. I think he's got all facets of the game. I think he provides so much fantasy value. And I've already, once again, come on here and said, I'd take Tage Thompson over Austin Matthews right now. And we talk about some gold mines here. Buffalo Sabres are going to be a gold mine. This is not a fluke of a season. This is going to be a team you want to target year after year for the foreseeable future, with Tage Thompson most likely being the number one guy from Buffalo. I know Rasmus Dahlin brings a ton of value on the back end, especially in categorical formats. You got Alex Tuch, who brings so much depth to his fantasy, to his value as well. You got depth pieces in Josh Dunn, Jason Zucker, Jack Quinn. There's so much to love with this team right now, but Tage Thompson is the number one guy here. He's the leader of this team. I know he's not the captain, but he's the voice of this team right now. And for him to get them on the board with 8 minutes left in the game and then tie it up like a few minutes later, he's a spectacular player. He's getting drafted in the first round. That's my bold prediction.
And if we continue to go with fantasy angles, Peyton Krebs. How about on the back end still with guys like Bowen Byram?
Anderson.
How about in the cage when UPL is cooking, or this year when Alex Lyon you've been able to ride? What have we been saying almost on every single waiver wire show that we did over the last 3 months? We're starting with the Buffalo Sabres for a good reason. Now take a look. It's translating into that other angle you and I always like to separate is what does it mean for your team and what does it mean for the team we're talking about in the standings? And it's mean boom for both sides of the coin this year, Steele. So 100%, I like that you're shining a light on these Buffalo Sabres because that win was electric and you've wrapped it up very nicely. So we're talking about kind of overreactions, bold takeaways, bold predictions from what we've seen in a small sample size. Leo Carlsson was sensational in Game 1. The Anaheim Ducks let the Edmonton Oilers off the hook because Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl both looked out of sync. Leon back from injury. the supporting cast. Hey, pat on the back for the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast boys who said what?
Finally,
Players are going to have to step up for the Edmonton Oilers, and they did that in game one. I'll tell you this, though, Steele. Yes, Leo Carlsson looked good. Couple of points in game one against Edmonton, a goal and an assist and a stat line across the board. That when you're taking a look at 10 shots on net and nearly 18 minutes of ice time per night in this kid's first taste of postseason hockey, I've got bold predictions and high aspirations for this guy, but I'll say this also for the Ducks in this series. There's not going to be too many opportunities where you get Leon at number 97 slacking in the mackin' and you left him off the hook. That series might be wrapped up earlier than we think, Steele. But back to Leo Carlsson, this guy's a top 30 player in fantasy hockey. And I took a look at NHL.com's list just for fun. And we know that's not the be-all and end-all. And you and I like to poke holes in all the lists because that's what we do here in fantasy hockey. Yeah. Leo Carlsson slid in at number 31 on their list. I didn't even look at that before. And I look at Brandon Hagel ahead, Braden Point, Cutter Gauthier. We are in the mix here with some really good players and valuable fantasy pieces. So after that one performance, after what I think the Ducks will still be able to do in terms of make offensive noise in this series, Leo Carlsson's a top 30 player. This guy gets it done both ways. And when you combine his hockey IQ with his ability to play both ways and the Ducks' young squad, I think this guy's a top 30 player.
Absolutely. And we've mentioned it before about a changing of the guard of some sense of what's going on in fantasy hockey and just in the National Hockey League itself, with a lot of these young guys now pushing their way to the top. Cole Caulfield, Wyatt Johnston, Cutter Gauthier, Leo Carlsson, Tage Thompson, even with what I just mentioned with being a first-round pick. They're all moving up the draft board. These are guys that you want on your fantasy hockey team because they bring a lot of value with those pieces surrounded around them in the organization. I'm not going to go as far as saying Owen Tippett's top 30, but I'm going to go as far as saying Owen Tippett is a top 50 fantasy pick for next year. This guy, I believe, is on the cusp of being a star in the National Hockey League. I think he has all the tools to put himself in some really good conversation going into next year. And I know he's only got 1 point in the 2 games in the Flyers' 2 wins over Pittsburgh in the playoff series, but I think he's been all over it in a positive way. He's creating momentum for his team. He's bringing the physicality. He's shooting the puck a ton. He's getting in the mix on every single shift. The surprising thing for me, though, the lack of ice time he's getting. This guy only averaged 16 and a half minutes of average ice time in the regular season. He needs to be upward close to what Travis Konechny's getting. 18, 19 minutes of average ice time. He deserves it. He deserves the opportunity. He tied his career high in goals this season with 28. He had 51 points this year, which was second best of his career so far. This is a guy who's 26 years old, hasn't even hit his prime yet. He's physical. He shoots the puck. He is also one of the most skilled players in the National Hockey League, and I think he deserves a lot more credit. He is able to dance his way in the offensive zone. I don't know if you've seen this patented spinorama move that he pulls off every now and again, but it's like flawless. So this is one of my under the radar players that I love to have on my team because he fills all of those peripherals. And like I said, in the playoffs so far, 2 games in, he's got 1 point. +2, 4 shots on net, 9 hits in 2 games with 1 block. I just think he fills all those things you want to see from a categorical format standpoint. And again, straight up fantasy points. Like if he gets more ice time, I think he could push 70 points next year.
Absolutely. All of these angles will continue to cover for you guys, or hopefully positioning you to get after it for the upcoming draft, because sooner or later, it might sound crazy, the cup hasn't been lifted. We'll be there, Steele. And some of these GMs out there that have been tapped in, they'll be getting after it early and often next season. We've got lots more to talk about after the break. Stankoven, Sid, a whole bunch of fantasy angles you need to know. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Hims. Edie, is way more common than most guys think, boys. Millions of guys around the world deal with it at some point, and it's exactly why HIMS offers a straightforward way to handle it. HIMS connects you with licensed healthcare providers online, giving you access to legit ED treatments from the comfort of your own home. No awkward appointments, no pharmacy lines, just a straightforward process that makes it easier to take care of yourself. Boys, you got to be tapping in. Get simple, online, personalized, affordable care for ED, hair loss, weight loss, and more. Steele, I don't know if this is written directly towards me, but I'm getting a bit upset. Visit hims.com/LockedOnNHL. That's hims.com/LockedOnNHL for free online visits. hims.com/LockedOnNHL. Prescriptions required. See the website for details and important safety information. Tap in. Specifically, LLC. HIMS is not affiliated or endorsed by Viatris. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here. Every position matters, every matchup magnified, and every game can swing the series. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a great way to get in on the action. Bust open the app, $5 down, $250 in bonus bets back in your account if that bet hits. Right now, the entire playoff experience takes it to another level on FanDuel from start to finish. Make sure you're tapping into the futures, live bets, over-unders, player props. You can check them all out at FanDuel.com and get started. FanDuel, play your game.
And once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Make sure you go check out the Everydayer Club here on Locked On Podcast Network. It's all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. You get ad-free episodes plus access to the Discord group chats with Flip and I and other listeners of the Fantasy Hockey channel. You can also go learn more about it at lockedonfantasyhockey.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes below. Flip. A lot of overreactions, predictions with what we've seen so far in the first few games of the NHL postseason so far. I do want to throw it back over to you because I only got one player left. I want to talk about Brock Faber coming up as well, but you got Sidney Crosby. You got Logan Stankoven in your sights right now where you want to go.
And I've got a few different other angles that just what happens in fantasy hockey. You know, you and I have spoken about this on air and off air. When players really step up on the big stage and they've had either a good or bad year, you talk about it. What does it mean for next season? Is this what they really can do? Was the regular season a flash in the pan? Perhaps in a guy like Logan Stankoven that, really cooked my goose this year in a couple of spots, Steele, because until down the stretch, he was asleep, and he has really actually performed at every level that you have seen in his career. And I understand that when you take a look at the finishing numbers of 21 goals and 23 assists in 81 games, it doesn't jump off the page. But when you watch this player and you see what he actually brings to the table and what Carolina, whatever they do this postseason, he is a player that I really like. And then you look at 1 goal, 1 assist in the opening against this Ottawa Senators team in the game-winning goal. Then he follows it up with another big-time goal. Not only do I think the Ottawa Senators are in serious trouble, and I want to talk about that as well quickly since we're touching on Logan Stankoven, this is a big-time player, Steele. He was drafted in the 2nd round for a reason. And I think if his size was something other than 5'8", and I think that's generous, he's a first-round draft pick all day long. So then you say, don't sleep on these players because right now he's their second-line center on a team in Carolina that should run it back, whatever happens. So I say, Logan Stankoven, you take a look at what he does next season, and he will be a draft steal, someone that people, GMs in any format will overlook. That's my bold take.
Absolutely. This Carolina Hurricanes team is an offensive juggernaut. Maybe not so much when it comes to fantasy points, but when you look at the overall talent they have on the team and some up-and-comers as well, throw Jackson Blake into that mix. They bring in Nikolai Ehlers, who has actually been a little bit quiet so far in the first 2 games against Ottawa. Speaking of Ottawa, I mean, I was quite surprised to see how many, NHL playoff bracket challenges had Ottawa winning this first round series. And I know I had Carolina winning in 5. And that wasn't to say that the Hurricanes were going to walk all over them. I just think they're going to win in 5. I just think that
I agree.
Exactly what I mentioned was you're going to see a few games go to overtime, and the Carolina Hurricanes are going to somehow win that, which they did in game 2. So that's the way I see it going, but was quite surprised to see more people having the Ottawa Senators winning this first round series than the Carolina Hurricanes, who finished first in the Metropolitan Division, was second in the Eastern Conference. I mean, it didn't make a lot of sense to me, but this Carolina Hurricanes team is dangerous. And if they can't figure out Frederik Andersen, some of those lucky bounces that they started to get halfway through game 2, they are in serious trouble.
And this is what is really intriguing about this time of the year. What has let down this Ottawa team all year long? Linus Ullmark at really important stretches. And I don't want to hang it all on this guy, but I'm sorry, Steele. When you have been in important moments, and I know this has cooked a lot of gooses in fantasy GM's worlds, when you've stepped out and said, I need a break at a clutch point in the season, hey, we are pro mental health on this podcast.
100%.
Like all day. We will never fault someone for needing a mental health day. A mental health is real. But when it comes to professional sports and the stretch run, when he did that, I don't buy into Linus Ullmark. And then he comes out here and he does what he has done without Linus Ullmark in these first 2 games, Steele. These are going a whole different way. So I think he deserves credit. I'm throwing a lot of attention towards this series because game 2 could have gone any other way. Logan Stankoven,
Carolina could have won that like 6-2.
Exactly.
Linus Ullmark kept them in that game.
Exactly. And then you have the penalty shot, then you have the call back. It was crazy in game 2. Game 3 will be interesting, but we want those fantasy takeaways. And I think what you've seen, ice in the veins from Logan Stankoven and really showing what he has done at every level. Big-time performances in big-time moments. And that, with a good team next year, I want to tap into fantasy value-wise, Steele. I got one more player to talk about, and I got my bets ready to ride.
One of those sneaky guys for next season. I also think Brock Faber can be that. And I'll talk a little bit more about him after the break, but real quickly, I just think his game has completely transitioned to another level with the incoming of Quinn Hughes, obviously halfway through the year. His offensive abilities have skyrocketed. He hit career numbers this year as well. 51 points, career high. 15 goals, career high. 148 blocks is what he has done prior. 173 shots, a career high by an absolute mile right now. Also a plus 18, a career high. Quinn Hughes obviously has done a lot for this organization, but specifically, I think it's done a lot for what Brock Faber is able to do on the ice and what he's able to do when it comes to fantasy hockey. I'll touch on that a little bit more when we come back from the break. Of course, we got big time bets, but this episode is also brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. If you've got a sweet tooth like I do, you know how tough it is to find that perfect treat without all the sugar. That's why Cotton Candy 5 Hour Energy Shot brings that nostalgic flavor back in a whole new way. This is that classic cotton candy taste you remember, but with a tasty caffeine boost and zero sugar. It's a quick, easy way to satisfy that sweet craving while keeping things simple and on the go. I've always loved cotton candy, but I can't be eating sweets all day, so this is the perfect alternative. The flavor really does bring that throwback fruity vanilla vibe, and it's surprisingly smooth. Like how convenient it is, too. It's just a small portable shot I can grab whenever I need a little pick-me-up throughout the day. It's become my go-to when I want something sweet without going overboard. Bring on the sweetness with Cotton Candy 5 Hour Energy Shots, available online now at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. And once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button. Leave a 5-star review for your boys here, Livingstone and Steele Rodin. Just quickly continuing the conversation about Brock Faber and him, along that same, comment you made about Logan Stankoven about having a sneaky good year next year, raising his fantasy value. When I look at Brock Faber, and I'm quickly just bringing up his end of season rankings and preseason rankings, but Brock Faber, to me, again, with getting Quinn Hughes into the mix now, it has elevated his game offensively. He also had 2 goals in that game 2 loss against the Dallas Stars. So at the end of the season, his preseason rank was 91. End of the season, he was 126. So his value actually went down a little bit. But now going into next year with a full season with Quinn Hughes as his D partner, that might be one of the best D pairings in the National Hockey League.
Absolutely.
Next year. Well, obviously Quinn Hughes is the number one guy. He's going to get the first power play unit time. He's going to be facilitating like he does every single night. But Brock Faber's in that mix right there. And with what I mentioned with all of those peripherals jumping up the page, this is also a player that's only 23 years old. So much more room for him to develop and grow his game and just continue alongside the greatness of Quinn Hughes. So I really like him being that sneaky value pick as a D-man going into next fantasy season.
Absolutely, Steele nailed it, knocked it out of the park, knocked it out of the Brock, because when I saw that was a tough loss for the Minnesota Wild in game 2, no doubt. But what Brock Faber has been doing, maybe it's the Zins, maybe it's the Lippers at the club, maybe it's no, seriously, because the confidence is exuding from this player. And, the Team USA nod as well. I think there is so much fantasy value with this player. And when you have the Minnesota Wild now rounding themselves out, you want a piece. There's our favorite term. It's like just what you need to hear. You get a piece of these teams trending in the right direction. That is one of them. Sidney Crosby, Steele. I'm looking at these numbers, and I'm looking at tonight's bets too. Wednesday night's bets, and I want to talk about it. In his career regular season against the Philadelphia Flyers, and they are Metro Division opponents, so they play each other a lot. 139 career regular season points against the Philadelphia Flyers is second most of any team in his career. And look, the Philadelphia Flyers, Ricky T, that forward group, Porter Martone, all the way down to guys like Garnet Hathaway, they deserve credit. Ristolainen deserves credit. Sanheim deserves credit. They have gotten under Sid's skin. Anytime he touches the puck, he's getting punched in the face, cross-checked in the back. Dirty or clean, doesn't matter. It's the postseason. Those whistles are away, Steele, and that's an issue. Does that mean Sidney Crosby's decline is 100% impending? No, it does not. However, I will throw this out because I'm not ready to say Crosby's downslide is ready to come. The decline is here. I'll say this. The Penguins overachieved this year. No doubt, right? This is a tandem of Skinner and Shelovs that down the stretch still rocked 900 save percentages below that mark. So, next year might be tough, but Crosby's still got enough in the tank. This series is still alive. However, credit due to the Philadelphia Flyers. So I don't know if I'm copping out here on Crosby's decline angle, Steele, because I'm not ready to throw that out there yet.
I thought you were.
The Philadelphia Flyers deserve credit, and that means next year fantasy value, because this is a veteran club in the Pittsburgh Penguins. Say what you will about what they've done, so I'll spit this out. Crosby's decline, it ain't here yet, but the Philadelphia Flyers' rise might be now.
I think it really is. And I had this series going the distance. I picked the Penguins in 7 games here, and I still think that's possible. But if I'm being quite honest, if I'm being realistic and honest about it, I do slightly regret not picking the Flyers to win this series. They came in probably being one of the hottest teams with a 3-game win streak, 7-3-0 in their last 10 games. They had more regular season wins than the Pittsburgh Penguins. They tied them at 98 points in the Metropolitan Division as well. So I ended up going with Pittsburgh because of that experience. But from what I've seen in the first 2 games, this is a team that is here and ready now. Dan Vladar, we talked about him a lot over the last week.
So much.
He is bringing some serious heat in the blue paint for the Philadelphia Flyers. Let's talk about that. 4 big-time bets. We got 3 games on the schedule here.
Yes, sir.
Game 3 for Penguins Flyers, game 3 for Stars Wild, and game 2 for Oilers and Ducks. So, Flip, if you don't mind, I'm just going to rattle all 3 of my picks off.
Yes, sir.
The first pick is the Penguins on the money line. They have to come out strong. They have to come out fast. If they lose game 3, it's all over, in my opinion. It's all over. So I think you're going to see the best out of Sidney Crosby. You're going to see the best out of Malkin and a lot of those top 6 guys, Rust, Raquel, Anthony Mantha as well. On the back end, you're going to need a big performance from either Erik Karlsson or Chris Letang. They got to activate. They got to get up into the rush and try to produce some offensive touches for the Penguins. So I got Penguins on the money line. It's a do or die situation for me for game 3 on the road. Number 2, Minnesota Wild on the money line here. And I was really hoping they could go up 2-0 in the series. They were 0-5. Now they're 0-6 when they were up 1-0. They have never been able to go up 2-0 in a series, I believe. So this also comes down to if Matt Zuccarello is healthy. He missed game 2 with a lower body injury, I believe. He is listed as day-to-day, and he was a big part in that 6-1 win in game 1. He had 3 assists. He is one of the most underrated passers in the game from my point of view. I think he's just able to find any one of his line mates without question, without looking. Again, he can pass it from the parking lot and still find someone on the tape there. So Matt Zuccarello, hopefully he's back, but I still got Minnesota on the money line at home for game 3. Same for the Edmonton Oilers. They were lucky to sneak out of that one after going up 2-0, then given 3 straight up from the Anaheim Ducks, Terry, Leo Carlsson, like you said. But the Oilers are the Oilers. And the fact that they were able to get that win without Connor McDavid really doing much and Leon Draisaitl only having 1 assist, they're also going to come out guns a-blazing, I believe, as well. So I got Oilers on the money line at home, Wild on the money line at home, and Penguins in a do-or-die situation for me, money line on the road.
The fact that the game produced 4 Edmonton Oilers goals and a victory for the Edmonton Oilers in that game 1 against the Anaheim Ducks, a lot could look at it like, oh, the Ducks missed on an opportunity, or that was a close game. The Oilers shouldn't feel confident. Maybe both of those are true. But what I would look at it and say, Steele, if they were able to do that in game 1 with Leon Draisaitl settling in because he just had 400 bags of popcorn over the last couple of weeks and Connor McDavid on one of those off nights, what happens when Connor McDavid has a bad night? The next one is special. And if that also means a Draisaitl situation settling in, oh, baby, it is go time for the Edmonton Oilers bets here in game 2 at home. Oilers, puck line, over 5.5 all day. Connor McDavid, 2+ points. And I'm not done yet. Leon Draisaitl, anytime goal. Lock of the night. And I would also throw in there, Steele, because I'm feeling spicy, Sidney Crosby, anytime assist. That one, I'm telling you, that is hitting. I'll rerun it back. Oilers puck line, over 5.5. Draisaitl anytime goal is the lock of the night. McJesus 2+ points, and Crosby anytime assist.
There it is.
I'm feeling good about that one, Steele. That one's for the pod.
I like all of those picks. The one I would switch would be just going to the Oilers on the money line just to play a little bit safer.
Absolutely.
But you said it yourself. You're going spicy here. I do like the ballsiness of the puck line at home after what we saw in game 1, but the rest of them absolutely love. Over 5.5. McDavid 2+ points. We're getting after it with big time bets on Wednesday night for game 3 and game 2 action here on Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Thank you so much for making it your first listen every single day. Hit that subscribe button. Take a second out of your day. Hit it. It helps the channel out. You also get all the latest episodes. You can follow us on X at LO_fantasy NHL. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok too. We appreciate it. And we'll see you back here again tomorrow for some more playoff hockey.
Peace.